In 2026, the central government tabled a sweeping legislative package designed to restructure the country's democratic framework. The headline feature of this package is widely popular. It fast-tracks a policy that legally reserves 33% of parliamentary seats for women, aiming to have it fully implemented by the 2029 elections. To make room for this new demographic balance, the government needs a physically larger legislature. The bill expands the lower house of parliament, the Lok Sabha, pushing its maximum capacity from 550 seats to 850. But instead of uniform celebration, this proposal immediately triggered aggressive protests. Across southern India, opposition leaders and citizens are actively demonstrating against the legislation. The anger stems from a specific legal mechanism written into the bills. The government tied the implementation of the women's reservation directly to a process called delimitation. This requires redrawing the country's electoral boundaries and updating the map to reflect the 2011 census data. This puts southern political parties in a difficult position. If they want to support historic female empowerment, they have to vote for a new electoral map that mathematically erodes their own regional power. This graph tracks regional populations to show where the conflict originates. Starting in the 1970s, India's demographics split. The populations in the northern states skyrocketed, while the growth rates in the southern states leveled off. That divergence happened by design. The central government aggressively pushed family planning and population control policies, and the southern states successfully implemented them. Because democratic representation relies on headcount, this created an immediate problem. By following the government's rules and stabilizing their populations, the southern states stood to lose their voting power in parliament. To stop those states from being penalized for their own governance, India passed the 42nd Amendment. This legislation artificially froze the national allocation of parliamentary seats based on the old 1971 census data. That timeline was later extended to 2026 through the 84th Amendment. As a result, India has spent the last half-century running its elections on demographic models that no longer match the population on the ground. For 50 years, the electoral map wasn't based on raw population size. It was held in stasis, treating regional cooperation as more important than a strict mathematical headcount. That 2026 deadline is now here. The newly tabled Delimitation Bill mandates that the freeze is over, and the map must be redrawn using the numbers from the 2011 census. This map tracks the projected outcome. The Lok Sabha will jump from its current 543 elected members to roughly 815 state-allocated politicians. Because northern states saw unchecked population growth, they see a significant gain in representation. Uttar Pradesh gains 53 new seats, and Bihar gains 29. In the south, gains are marginal. Tamil Nadu adds 9 seats. Kerala gains only 2. The central government defends this updated formula by pointing out the absolute numbers. Since Parliament is physically expanding, no individual state actually loses any of the seats they currently hold. This pie chart shows how that voting power shifts. With almost 300 total new politicians entering the chamber, the southern state's slice of the legislative pie shrinks. Their ability to influence national policy drops in direct proportion to the north's gain. Unfreezing the census data means the states that most successfully executed national health mandates will be permanently outvoted on future legislation. Adding nearly 300 members to the Lok Sabha shifts regional power and simultaneously breaks the mathematical formulas holding the rest of the government together. We can see the structural impact by looking at the balance between the two legislative chambers. Right now, the ratio between the lower house, the Lok Sabha, and the upper house, the Rajya Sabha, is roughly 2.2 to 1. The new seat allocation pushes that ratio to 3.3 to 1. When both chambers are called into a joint sitting to resolve a legislative deadlock, the upper house will be mathematically overwhelmed by the volume of lower house votes, losing its ability to act as a check. The executive branch also swells. The Constitution caps the Council of Ministers at 15% of the Lok Sabha's total size. A larger parliament means the federal cabinet could expand from 81 members up to 122, creating significant hurdles for standard governance. The government is attempting to solve several real problems at once. The country needs an accurate demographic count, and it needs guaranteed female representation. But executing those policies through a strict one-person, one-vote standard It effectively penalizes the southern states. If a compromise isn't reached, southern leaders are preparing to take this dispute directly to the Supreme Court, challenging the legal definition of representation itself. Updating the electoral map forces a choice between two competing democratic values: executing a mathematically accurate headcount or honoring the cooperative agreements that keep India's regions united.